So I asked AI, it's 2025, I had to ask AI how many restaurants there are in Sonoma County. And shocker, it couldn't actually tell me. But it gave me an estimate of hundreds, there, depending on what you qualify as restaurant. I then asked, out of those hundreds, how many have won a Bib Gourmand from Michelin? And there's only, right now, 8. And then I said, how many have won a Bib Gourmand 12 years in a row? And that would be them. Financial confidence for your hip pocket.
Money is really just energy.
Thanks for checking out It's All Money. Welcome to It's All Money. My name is Dano Weir from Sonoma Wealth Advisors. It's All Money is where life and finance meet, the story therein. Sometimes we're talking about personal finance. Sometimes we're talking about business and the stories behind business, the great people of Sonoma County. I am, for our listening audience, I'm sitting in an indoor-outdoor dining space. There's a beautiful wood wall with a pattern on it. And I am in the restaurant of the Glen Ellen Star in the town of Glen Ellen. I am looking at Arnold Drive. To tell the story of the Glen Ellen Star, we have a James Beard semifinalist from 2025 with stops in New York, Philadelphia, and a few years of the French Laundry. We've got a hospitality pro with 15 years in the business. They're currently running 2 successful restaurants, including the one we're in now. Please welcome chef proprietor Ari Weiswasser and Spencer Waite.
Thank you. Yeah.
Guys, let's start with the now. Let's start with the Michelin Bib Gourmand, your 12th in a row. Spencer, for people who don't know, what is a Bib Gourmand?
Yeah, I think it's classified as somewhere you want to eat often with really great food. As people who don't know about Michelin in general, or they just know about the stars, kind of explain it as an affordable 1-star, where you're getting really great food at an affordable price, and it's not over the top fancy.
Ari, what is the process like for a Bib Gourmand? I mean, this is clearly someone's coming to judge you at some point. So do you know who they are? Are you serving them? Or is it a secret? Do you have to apply for it? How does that work?
Yeah, no, it's a very non-transparent process, we'll call it. There are Michelin judges in every, state or city that they offer a Michelin award or a ranking. And yeah, they come throughout the calendar year. They dine. There's plenty of legend and lore about what they do. Sometimes they dine solo with a single AirPod in their ear. Sometimes they'll drop a fork 30 seconds in to them sitting down to see if there's some responsive service. I mean, nobody knows if any of that's true. There's aliases out there. So there's a lot of hype. And, but no, it's a secretive process. They come, they dine. We don't know how many times. We don't know when. Yeah. And, sure enough, they just changed it. I believe it's June now when they announced California. Michelin used to be later, so it's a moving process, but, and so it always keeps you on your toes. And the best you can do is make sure that you're maintaining your quality standards throughout the year, no matter what.
So it's a high quality food, it's high quality service, and it's at an affordable price, which is becoming more and more difficult, I would imagine, as 2025 bears on.
I think neighborhood gem is the coin term.
Have you found challenges in the economic environment with everything going up to meet that affordable price with your quality standards? Is that a moving target for you?
Yeah, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I think every year it's more challenging than the last. People's expectations and price don't adjust as fast as the actual food prices do. So when we had to raise something up a certain percentage, they're still trained to think that maybe at least the same prices as last year, but in all reality, it's not. And oftentimes it's not the food prices that are changing menu prices. It's actually the labor. Labor in California is, more difficult than a lot of the other states. Mm-hmm. And we get a lot of tourists that don't realize that they're going into a state where where they might be coming from the East Coast where they're paying $3 an hour for servers.
Right.
We're paying minimum wage, which is itself high in California. So $17 an hour as opposed to the free. So your $50 steak in, Rhode Island or Massachusetts is going to cost $70 here, some variation. As an example.
I'll give you a chance to say this on camera. You as a chef proprietor, do you want to raise your prices and do you want to pay your staff a living wage?
Okay, so raising our prices, that's the last metric. Like that's, we do monthly, sometimes bi-monthly, projections and numbers, and we're always crunching. We're always evaluating invoices. That's the last stop, right, to do. And yes, of course, I think we wouldn't be in business in California if we didn't believe in paying a living wage. I think from a tipped employee standpoint, there's, I believe, 8 states in the country that do not recognize tips that go toward wages. And so, like Spencer was saying, I think it's actually $2.83 in Pennsylvania, where a server is getting paid. That's the hourly rate. I think the federal minimum is $7 and change still. It might not even be $8. So some states just fall back on the federal minimum wage, which I think is absolutely ridiculous to pay somebody. We all know that that's a very difficult way to make a living. But the tips or the gratuities, the voluntary gratuities would make up most, if not all, of the servers, income. And so that's the dynamic. So to answer your question, yes, living wage. No, it's not in our. That's not part of our main strategy. Is to increase pricing every year.
There's a lot that goes into the pork chop price.
A lot.
Yeah. Let's jump in the DeLorean. Let's take a time travel back to 2012. How do Ari and Spencer know each other, and who says, let's start the Glen Ellen Star?
Yeah. So my wife, Erin, and we started Glen Ellen Star. It was just 2 of us. Spencer, you might have to correct me here, you came on board in 2019, right? So 7 years, we were, in this restaurant pretty much every single day. I think I had 3 years until I took a day off. I know I closed on 4th of July one year just to take a day. We always closed on Thanksgiving, and we always closed on Christmas. But that was about it. And so that was a pretty decent grind to establish the restaurant, find staff and employees that kind of assimilate or that buy into the vision and to what we do. Really the reason why we started the restaurant was I was done working for other people. I could not do it anymore. And I worked for some great chefs, in New York, and you kind of touched on Thomas Keller at the French Laundry. That was my introduction to the area. And I have nothing but great things to say about that experience. Really an institution, amazing, well-oiled machine, amazing, SOPs, and just, I learned a lot there. Got introduced to wonderful purveyors, networked. Some of their staff actually came on board with me to help open. And so lots to do with going in and punching a clock and being at the mercy of somebody. I would have done. I'd done that. It was, that was more fearful. I was more scared to do that than to risk everything I had to open another restaurant.
So you were done working for somebody else, but then the trade-off was you didn't have a day off for 7 years. Right?
Well, it wasn't about the days off. It was about the control of my schedule and my valuable time. That was the calculation. I knew there was a 3-year buy-in to get to a place where you could have some kind of a balance. In that process, we had 3 amazing children. So
congratulations.
Yeah, I have 3 daughters. Currently Noah's 14, Haley and Riley are 12, so identical twin girls. So we had Noah in 2011, opened the restaurant in 2012, and had the twins in 2013. So there was no real days off at home or in the restaurant. And then we started to get our feet under us. We started catering, which allowed us to have more flexibility, hire an executive sous. We didn't have a chef de cuisine at the time, and take a step back, right? So we had some financial freedom a little bit. But our top our executives who were eventually a chef de cuisine and our general managers would rotate every 2 years, right? It was like this, okay, what's next? More money, we're only so big. And so we decided to look for a partner. And so by 2019, so it's about 7 years, Spencer answered, was it like an Indeed ad maybe?
It was
Or a
an Indeed
Craigslist ad, something like that. Yeah. So Spencer answered the ad. I think he came in before, kind of like just to check it out. I think you came in at the counter before you officially responded to the.
Before
Yeah.
you had talked to me.
Yeah. And
Just to check out
so,
to make sure that the place was legit.
yeah, that it was a legit, it wasn't some kind of a front. And yeah, and so we met Spencer. Spencer was on board for about 2 years, and then it was time. Yeah, and then we officially became partners.
All right. So Spencer,
Yes.
you get involved in 2019. When you walked in the door, what was your first impression of the restaurant and of the business as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I sat at the counter. I was a walk-in, not knowing you needed a reservation for the chef's counter. The host was running after me saying, "Do you have a reservation?" And so once I sat at the counter, I noticed that Ari was behind the line, and I think I might have researched him, knowing that he was the owner. I think I got basic pizza and an ice cream, quick in and out. And I thought it was a really cool looking place. Open kitchen is always fun to be in.
Mm-hmm.
How's the pizza?
It was good. Yeah.
He still wants to know.
Yeah, the server that served me had been here since opening. So stuff like that kind of drew me in, knowing that longevity was important and retention and things like that. By the end of my meal, he must have recognized me from him stalking me on Facebook or whatever it was, and researching. And by the end of the meal, we were outside talking about opportunities and things like that.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the ad did say looking for a general manager and partner.
Yes,
right.
Yes,
So you got to do your research.
Take me back to the very first night, which is May 18th, 2012. Can you remember your first menu?
Yeah, I can. We did 2 friends and families, which is an opportunity for your closest friends and critics to experience your restaurant free of charge. I don't even think we charged for wine back then. We just had 2 nights, 36 guests, felt like 150. And the menu, the pricing, we had 5 wood roasted vegetables, which was kind of new at the time. It was vegetable centric. And I think they were priced at $8 a cast iron, and now they're $19, just to give you an idea of same everything, just everything's more expensive. I think we had a black bass on the menu. You want real details?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. It was very important because we had a small kitchen from an execution and logistics standpoint, to be very limited on touches on the plate. So 3 items, but very well thought out, well sourced. And that was how we were successful in executing volume out of that kitchen. If you've ever seen that kitchen, it's a wood oven and a saute station, and that's it. And so we had 3 people in the kitchen for a long time, and then we could afford a 4th. We couldn't really afford Snake River, like American Wagyu, so we had something like, it was Creekstone. I don't remember the ranch, but at the time it was like, something that you could at least lean on from a credibility standpoint. And Mary's Chicken was on the menu, and it was like very, very simple, brick chicken, grilled flat iron, black bass,
pizzas.
There was pizza, a margarita, a tomato cream pie, and a white with guanciale and arugula. That was on the opening menu. We also had an ice cream program. So couldn't afford a pastry chef, but we decided to have an ice cream program and package them. At that time, they were in half pints or in 8-ounce containers. And that was our only dessert. We didn't have anything else. And I'm thinking from a dishwashing standpoint and from a plate and a silver, it's like, this is great. Like, there's nothing to wash. And from a table turning standpoint, because we were a small restaurant, they could take it, finish it, or not finish it and go. And so it was like a fast exit. It felt, I don't know if it felt rushed, but it felt like,
it's an option. They can stay and have it. Or
so we had fast turn times. We were able to get the second seating in pretty fast if you don't have a big dessert, pastry menu, right? And then our price point started to creep up because I think my opening wage for line cooks was $10 an hour. We are an open kitchen, and so the back of the house, because they're interactive in the service, are entitled to gratuities, so that helps. So the front of the house decided to chip in, and so it felt like if we were busier, the cooks were making more money, and so everybody was incentivized to be busy. It worked, but really fast every year almost that wage just escalated, and things start costing more money. And so we got to a point where we had to expand our pastry program because we were getting comments back then on TripAdvisor and Yelp, which were like the two main, comment platforms that I used to read every single day.
The chef
great.
Really reads it.
Well, when we were open, I read every single. Now I don't, but we have Spencer's wife Ashley does, and
was it valuable?
Comments.
Is it valuable?
It is. There was a lot of gold nuggets that we took. And then there were just a lot of people that were very, very upset for just anything.
It's still valuable.
It's still valuable. But you can also siphon out the people that are just angry and just literally want to just, air their grievances. They had a bad day and there's nothing, that you can do. And I think you can point that out. But then there's a lot of good constructive criticism out there. And I think the platforms have evolved and the diners have evolved where they can tell you, good things. So we certainly learned from those. I do remember one incident. This is our first 1-star review where they said the best thing about this restaurant was the martini. And I remember thinking, we don't have a full liquor license. So, are you sure? And so we contacted them and they said, yeah, everything was terrible and the bar was the light. And I was like, I don't think you have the right restaurant. I think you have a different restaurant. We don't have martinis and we're not on open table. And there's all these things. And I think they hung up on me actually. And so of course you call Yelp and you're like, hey, and that was a back and forth. And back then Yelp was like, okay, we'll remove this for you if you pay us $100 a month.
Yeah, right.
And I said, you know what, I'm not interested. So that it might still be up there. I'm like, so this is how it works. Like this is how. Okay. Did you send this person in? Is this a setup? That's what it felt like. There was a lot of that.
The early days of Yelp, I might have a few hot takes on there. Haven't taken them down. Let's talk a little bit more about food too. So that was your first menu. What is for our clients, Sonoma Wealth clients, our viewers, someone who hasn't been to Glen Ellen Star before? Describe the menu now. What can they expect when they come here? Yeah,
so we've come a long way. We developed a sourdough program with our pizza dough, and we bake all of our bread in house.
Wow.
That's a big undertaking. And so that's something that we're very proud of. Our sourdough starter is now almost as old as the restaurant, and it only gets better every year. So, the pizza and the bread you have today is going to be great, and the one you have tomorrow is going to be better. And you can pretty much consistently say that.
That's true. 6 years ago, when I was here, pizza wasn't nearly as good as it is today.
Yeah, it's kind of it's an interesting, or I guess it's a wonderful addition. Our pastry program has expanded, so now we have 2, sometimes 3 offerings in addition to our ice cream. We have a farm now. My father-in-law, Mike Benziger, we have a 6-acre farm. We have 2 acres planted, so a lot of the times, especially in the summer, a lot of our produce comes right from the farm.
Wow.
And so it's tailored, it's planned out 1 year in advance. We plan on very detail oriented. There's specific varieties of eggplant that we want it grown, and peppers and tomatoes. I think he had 2,200 tomato plants this year up there. All of our salad, all of our greens, all of our chicories this time of year, different types of pumpkins and squash, pomegranate, persimmon, figs, basil, arugula, all that kind of stuff. So that's a wonderful asset, and that's very, very strong and just woven into our menu today. Snake River Farm, it's one of my favorite ranches. I was introduced to them at the French Laundry. After 4 years here, we could finally afford to put that on the menu.
Right.
And so that's a Black Angus American Wagyu cross. It's a wonderful ranch. They've made quite a name for themselves, so most people have that
familiar
are
with the
in
name.
tune, would know. Mary's Chicken and Rocky's Chicken is kind of still, the local go-to. Bronzino or Dorade is kind of our favorite whole fish that we do out of the wood oven, because I think when you walk into a restaurant with a wood oven, you would expect to have a whole fish. And really, we branched out into, we have a wonderful kind of collection of purveyors that specialize in everything you can possibly imagine, from spices to fish to mushrooms to everything. And so we've gotten to know what they're good at and what we can rely on, and we utilize them to their fullest extent. We're very seasonal. I mean, Wine Country provides a wider and a longer season than what I'm accustomed to from the East Coast. So it's interesting. You get asparagus earlier, you use it later. You get these interesting opportunities to use, seasonal ingredients, and it's always like, who can get it on first. That's I think that's
among restaurants
the
in the
restaurants,
area.
right? Like, you see a restaurant in LA featuring tomatoes in May, and you're like, where are they getting the tomatoes from? So it's kind of a funny competition, a fun competition. And so and it's also, the creative. I was the creative driving force for a long time, and now one of the interesting techniques, or at least the methods from the French Laundry is, and I've taken this here, is to share that creative. You can call it opportunity or burden, depending on how you look at it, with your team. And so our chef de cuisine, Matt Cardona, and Diego, our sous chef, they are very integral in driving the menu against the backdrop of what we know kind of works and what doesn't. And so
you're open to that input. You
100%. Yeah, we have a meeting every Friday, and they really, at this point, are the driving force. And then we have kind of check-ins, and we meet, and we just, I offer some tweaks and advice, and sometimes we'll go back to the classics and have some fun. But because between Park Avenue Catering, our catering business, Stella, and this restaurant, there's a lot of creativity, and there's a lot of energy that goes into all of that.
Right.
And so it's wonderful to have, people that are passionate about that part, and that really does drive and distinguish our restaurant from many, many other restaurants. You've probably eaten in restaurants and seen the same menu over and over and over again. And that's fine. Sometimes that works. But at this level, with our recognition and our price point now, I think we feel more of a responsibility to move that along and really, impress and just kind of meet that standard, especially when you have guests that return multiple times a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Spencer, for our clients or viewers who have not been here before, we've talked a little bit about the food.
Sure.
Describe the vibe to me. What is a feeling that you want your guests to have, both when they enter and when they leave?
Yeah, I think there's...
Am I uptight? Right?
No,
it's this white tablecloth and we're all not having any fun.
No, it's great service, great food, and I think pretty casual atmosphere. You feel like you're at home when you're dining here, especially with being an open kitchen. It's maybe a little louder and more upbeat than maybe another restaurant next door would be, but that's what people are looking for when they're dining here and in some place that has an open kitchen. They're hearing their chef call hands, or calling out the orders, and I think it gives that really special vibe that a lot of places don't have.
Yeah, I think there's, if you were going to describe Sonoma casual per se, that Sonoma restaurant vibe, it's unbelievable food. You're sort of able to be yourself. There's energy, but it's not overbearing.
Right.
It's all kind of like the weather. It's all kind of just right in that sweet spot. It's just it's unique, I think, to the area. It wasn't enough though, because you said, you know what, let's do it again. So at the beginning of this year, You say
Yeah.
we're expanding to Kenwood. So tell me about Stella.
Well, that happened more than 3 years ago now. We had the idea of it. And the hard part was finding the right location. And that took I think half year to figure out where we're going.
Yeah, I think we kind of went to the square first. That would have been our first choice.
Sonoma Square.
Sonoma Square, yeah. Lots of challenges getting in there. We spent about 3 months doing diligence on a location, and we decided that was not the right location for us. And then Kenwood popped up. I think they had a tenant, so they took it off the table, and then something happened, and then it opened up where 9049 Sonoma Highway is. That's where Stella is, and it's about
the old Cafe Chidi.
Yeah, the old Cafe Chidi. It's about 3 miles north of here, so really close. So there's always a risk in a town like this when you open your sister restaurant 3 miles north that you're going to be eating into your original restaurant, which we took a chance. It looks like it's stabilized, and there's a little bit of a hit in the beginning, but I think it was overall I think it was a great move. Like Spencer said, 3 years ago we wanted to open a second restaurant, and it took almost every bit of 3 years to open. Yeah. It's not an easy process. It's everything. You find your location. You need to sign a lease. You don't have the money raised yet. You might have the staff or an idea of the concept, and so there's a lot of parts that go into it, and it's a very complicated. And the last time we did that was 12 years ago, and it's a completely different process now.
Italian, right? Why?
I mean, there was a hole for Italian. There was no one fulfilling that need, and we thought we could do a good job with it, and I think we do. And it's been really successful.
Yeah.
And Stella, the reason we named it Stella is kind of a play off the star. So in Italian, Stella means star.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seeing the connection there.
And we've been leaning Italian here for a long time. We extrude all of our own pasta, pizza. But I feel like that was, well, first of all, I've always wanted to have an Italian restaurant. And I don't have a romantic story like traveling to Italy and working for a grandmother. Like, there's none of that. But there's an appetite for Italian cuisine out there, and I feel like everybody loves a good Italian restaurant. But that a lot of our inspiration pushed us into Italy for a long time here. And when we did get Stella open, we had to unwind some of that here. So we kept the pizza.
Yeah, okay.
But we wanted to distinguish ourselves, so
that menu affects this menu.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And anytime we price something over there, it's like we have to be conscious of what it's priced here, even though it's different. It's just you have a direct comparison now.
Yeah.
To both restaurants. And I would imagine, the clientele that know both restaurants, they're probably looking at both menus and pricing, and they're probably, making some comparisons, and they'll determine where they're going to eat.
We'll get a lot of those guests though, 2 nights in a row. First night here, second night at Stella, or vice versa.
Wow.
Yeah. The summer brings in a lot of tourists, and there's not a lot of restaurants in the Glen Ellen, Kenwood area. So when they're doing some research on Yelp or whatever it is, they'll book both restaurants, one after the other, or somewhere in between the two. But yeah, it's great to see both guests, and our systems talk to each other, so we know they've been to one restaurant. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned that for Stella, there was a capital raise. You took on investors. This one was all you from the ground up. So what was that process like? And it's a totally different approach to starting that restaurant than this one.
Yeah. So this restaurant,
was that a learning curve.
Yeah. So this restaurant, well, we were fortunate enough to buy this location. So we don't have a land. We are our landlord, right? And so, and we did this in stages. The building that we're sitting in now was not when we opened. It was not here. And so it was the building, it was sinking into the back corner to the foundation. Everything had to be redone. There was some work done. But for the most part, it was me, my wife, my dad, and my father-in-law. And that's it. So it was the four of us kind of pulling together resources, and my wife and I were in the restaurant when we started. So I was the chef. She was we had a young kid, so she couldn't be the GM, but she was the AGM. And so I had a general manager and I had staff, and that was it. And so it was financially viable, and that was really the only way we could do it, which is why I was in the restaurant for 3 years.
Just
Building
bootstrapping
and
it.
trying to build value here. And so that was a different experience. Stella, we had to take on investors, and the landlord really we which I thought was fair. They gave us a shell of a building, so they did all the behind the wall work, which is expensive. For everything from hoods to HVAC to plumbing and electrical and all the things you don't think about when you walk into a space. There's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah.
And so behind all these walls, there's a lot going on, right? And that costs a lot of money. The tenant, us, we finished the space. So we designed it. We built the kitchen. In that case, it was an open kitchen with a wood fire grill. So wood theme, similar. We have a wood oven here. And, custom banquettes, beautiful design. We worked with an architect and designer, which I didn't really work with here. I had an architect for the main stuff, but the design was me. The original.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's totally stunning. Except this room, we had a designer, Brittany Bijan did this room. But that was it. That was very pieced together. Over here, it was full on. It was architect design, like a very well-known established contractor that had a process. Here, I met the contractor on site every day, and I asked him, what's happening today? And he would tell me. And then 2 hours passed when the plumber was supposed to be here. I'd say, where's the plumber? He's like, I don't know. He's texting the plumber, and this guy, it was more of a mess. Here was like, here's the schedule. It'll be done at this. And it was very rigid, and it was refreshing to see that.
Right.
There were some delays, there always are, but they were kind of out of our control. And so we had a great team to open. In order to do that, of course, you need money, right? So we raised a significant amount of money to get open and to give us a cushion
Right.
on opening day, because you don't want to start with $0 in the bank, right?
Right.
There's a lot of even when you get to opening day and you have your restaurant, you need 2 weeks of training. So you're paying employees in here. I mean, there's other ways to do it. We decided to do it this way. Bring in the front of the house, bring in the back of the house, and cook, execute menus, storage, take deliveries, get our systems in place, get the service standards in place, training, wine tasting, food tasting, employee services, then friends and family services, and then we open. So there's a good chunk of change and investment that's critical and essential. So when you open on day one, you're not, guests aren't coming in here paying full price.
Right.
And saying, wow, they need to get their act together.
Project. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we put a lot of thought into that. So back to your question, what you wanted to know, was it like the structure, or what
was it like for you to go from, it's a completely different business model, completely different start. So you bootstrap this one, investors on the second one. So as someone whose vision is this restaurant, do you feel like you were letting go a little bit? Did you feel like it was, a little bit more? How did you feel about doing it differently versus how you did it here?
No, I don't think we're letting go. I mean, I think, you have to find the right type of person that wants to invest in a restaurant. That's the first thing, right? And being in business here for 12 years or 11 years at that time, we have a wonderful clientele, and we have people occasionally ask us, when are you doing your next restaurant? So that's literally how it starts. And two of those, sometimes people just say that, but two of those people actually invested in our second restaurant, so which is, refreshing. And so that was a real boost of confidence when you can, we sold 4 shares, and we sold 32% of our restaurant. So when you sell the first 2 shares before even construction begins, that's a huge boost of confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, you can start, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to find the other 2. And so that was really what gave us the confidence to sign the lease and get into it. In fact, I don't know if we had the money when we signed the lease. I think I committed first.
Yeah, we didn't.
And then we had the money. But we had talks, and I had enough momentum behind us and people that were inquiring, so I knew something was going to happen. And when you do a deal like that, you have a rent holiday, right? You don't pay you don't pay rent on day one. It's either 12 months or 18 months, or there's some kind of a trigger in the contract that says when you start repairs or when you start construction or when you get your use permit. There's all kinds of ways to do it. And it takes, having some mentors and understanding that process before you go into a lease just completely blind and just sign away. There's a lot more into it than just the number, right? There's a lot that can happen. So it's important to understand all of those. And this was a little bit, I don't think we understood everything. I mean, we understood most of it.
Yeah.
But going into another deal, I think we're a lot more prepared and we know what to ask for.
Going into another deal, what are you telling me you're doing it a third time? Is that what you're indicating here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're kind of crazy.
Yeah, why not?
What's the deal, Spencer? You guys are
I
looking
mean,
at a third restaurant?
Once you have momentum behind you, it would be silly to not do something sooner than later, especially with our knowledge and how the process worked. We're so fresh, kind of coming out of the build at Stella, and knowing all the ins and outs of whether it's PG&E or the county or Caltrans, all these things that help you get set up or don't, and forgetting that knowledge 5 years down the road might hurt us. So, getting this done now, I think, is a smart move. We have some great momentum. And like I said before, we found a hole at this other, space in Sonoma County that I think we can fill. And that's what we're going to try to do.
And also, just as important as having momentum is having your team. We have an incredible team.
Yeah.
We're executing on all cylinders. And, for me, when I chart the course, I'm looking 2 years from now, and I'm either going to establish a pathway to grow, or I'm going to be having a conversation with everybody in this team and saying, I think it's just inevitable human nature that people want more every year. Mm-hmm. And so it's a problem that I never saw coming when I opened this restaurant, thinking that it would just be one and I could just, have a balanced. It's just kind of not the case. So if you're going to attract great employees, especially at the top level, you need to chart a course where there's some growth and opportunity. And that could mean ownership, that could mean more money, that could be tailored to whatever motivates said employee, honestly. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of that work goes into knowing your team, knowing what they want, seeing if it's compatible, and seeing if you can offer something down the road that keeps people interested and motivated and part of the organization. I think that's how you grow. 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Otherwise, there's only 4 walls, right? You're at some point you're gonna max out your top line,
right?
And it's only going to get more expensive to operate. And so that's also more terrifying for me than not doing it. So I'd rather take another risk,
mm-hmm.
and I'd rather go do it again than just sit and wait for the end to come and have a difficult conversation in 2 years.
Well, you mentioned your team a couple times. You're going to send this to all of them, and they're going to watch this. You want to shout out anybody? I mean, that really shines on your team, and say some names.
Yeah, sure. Here at Glen Ellen Star, we have our general manager Anthony is phenomenal. I'll leave the last names out, maybe.
Chef, innocent.
Chef Matt and Sous Chef Diego are incredible. Let's see. In the morning, they're here right now. My buddies Carlos and Chewy, they've been with us for 13 years, pretty much.
Yep.
Since day one. Since day one, which is phenomenal, and they're kind of the backbone and the eyes and ears in the AM. Receiving, prep. They get and keep the restaurant on track. On the front of the house side, Emily has stepped up. She's our AGM, if you will, and kind of she knows she was a great example. She was a server. She ascended to this kind of AGM role, and she does expo, and she just knows
ins and outs of the whole
ins
restaurant.
And outs of the whole restaurant, because that's kind of what it takes. Spencer's wife Ashley, she started just doing kind of marketing, social media, things like that. And now she takes on all the private events for both restaurants and all the marketing and social media. So if you've ever gotten an email from Glen Ellen Star and Stella, or you've ever booked a party, she's responsible for, the graphics and the neighborhood night menus and just all of the correspondence that really define and kind of distinguish both brands. Over on the Stella side of things, Steve is our general manager. We brought him onto Glen Ellen Star about 6 months before we opened, and he really kind of assimilated and knew the systems, and we got to meet him and trust him, and he's doing an incredible job over at Stella.
He actually moved out here from the Boston area to be part of the Stella project.
Wow.
Yeah. We worked together on the East Coast, and we were able to convince him to move out here.
They usually say yes when you say Sonoma.
Yeah. I mean, how many Boston winters do you want to sit there? And then we have Greg, who started as a server here. He's our assistant general manager over at Stella. And the kitchen team is super strong. And Antonio's our sous chef. And Martine, we just promoted to sous. So that's the management. I can't list all. We have 80 employees between both restaurants. So we'd be here for another 40 minutes, but they really are doing an incredible job. There's no weak links, really. I mean, we've been around long enough where the people that we've kind of siphoned through a lot. There's been a lot of people that come and go. I think we know who we're looking for, what we want, and they know who we are. So I think there's no surprises when they're here and you get 3 months in and you're like, oh, you're a real restaurant. Okay, I wasn't looking for a real restaurant. I was looking for something else.
I'm just trying to collect tips.
I just want to make money. Right. So that's,
and on that front, I think we had really good luck.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Before we go on, my wife, Erin, I have to throw my wife, Erin, and she's that would have been a disaster. No, Erin runs the household, and she does all of her HR and payroll. She's the quintessential HR face. That's who you want to talk to. You don't want to talk to me. You want to talk to my wife. That's like so she's she plays a very important role for both restaurants and manages 80 employees as well. So okay, sorry.
No, I was just saying we had when we had first decided to open Stella, I think one of the biggest concerns was hiring 60 people from zero. And that's a tall feat, I think, in the town of Kenwood. Not a lot of people live in Kenwood. Santa Rosa's, 15 minutes away. South of Kenwood, we got Glen Ellen. So you're really pulling from Sonoma or Napa, long drives. But we were super fortunate when we posted ads. We got an overwhelming response of people. And I think that Glen Ellen Star plays a huge factor in the credibility and that's, I think, why we were so lucky finding all these people that work with us now.
A huge part of both restaurants, Glen Ellen Star, Stella, and whatever the third restaurant's going to be, is the wine list, your wine portfolio. Yeah. And Spencer, I know that's your task for the company. If we're reading headlines, that industry is struggling right now.
Sure.
So is that real, one, in your experience so far? And two, are there any brands, any wineries you want to shout out just for support right now?
Yeah, so both Stella and Glen Ellen Star focus on just Sonoma, Napa, and Mendocino counties. So we keep it hyper local. We don't take anything beyond those three counties. We don't even bring imports in from Italy for our Italian concept. We'll find Italian varietals grown in Sonoma County or Napa County and put those on the list. So that's our biggest focus. I think, so when I first started, I was in charge of the wine list here. Right now, Anthony, our general manager, handles it here. And then Steve over at Stella handles the wine list there. So the buyers of all wine things and beer. But yeah, I mean, it's local producers. We try to focus on things that produce maybe less than 500 cases. So super small production. Bart from Dane Cellars does a great job. The Lassiters produce some really cool Rhone varietals. Across the street, Talisman. All these guys, I mean, they walk over the wine to the restaurants. That's how local it is.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So we try not to deal with massive distributors. If at all possible, I would say probably 70% of the list is what I just talked about, where the winemaker's dropping off the wine.
That's amazing.
And yeah, I think the industry has taken a small hit, maybe more than a small hit over the past couple of years, but some of these smaller producers have seen less of a hit than those big guys that are all over the country, or we're trying to sell in Canada. That's not happening anymore. So some of the smaller producers aren't seeing as much of a hit as I think some of the big guys are.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Spencer, you mentioned some brand names and wine brand names, and Ari, I stalked your Instagram. I'm sorry. You were asked some of your favorite restaurants in Sonoma and started naming other restaurants other than your own, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I can think of no other industry outside of restaurants where there's like this greater brotherhood, this greater sisterhood of like, yes, we have a restaurant, we love our restaurants, but also I'm part of this bigger culture of restaurants in general. Do you feel that? Is that real, and why is it important to you?
I would give, so when I'd spent about a decade cooking in New York City, and after work, there was a couple bars you would go to, depending on the area, and this is uptown. And when I was at Restaurant Danielle, we go to a bar and meet all the other kind of just like the 3 and the 4-star New York Times restaurants, right? All the cooks. And we had great camaraderie. We would eat in each other's restaurants, and we would promote. Somebody would come in and say, "Where would you eat?" I would say, Le Bernardin, Jean Georges, like all the, and I feel like that was a wonderful community to be a part of, to just promote. When I moved back to Philadelphia, it was not like that at all. It was completely on guard. You were in
Philadelphia was on guard. I can't. I'm shocked.
Now I can't speak now because I'm not in that community now. But when I was, my own experience, which was 2005 or 6, 2007, it was not the same. You went out with your restaurant group, and there was another restaurant. Oh, they're from there, and it was not like that at all. Now it might be different, and I really liked that part of New York where you would talk up great restaurants because somebody's here for 5 days. They're going to eat as a tourist. They're going to eat in. They're not going to come to your restaurant every day, right? It's like you're not going to get them 5 days, so you might as well give them some great tips, and you want them to experience Sonoma as a whole and return to Sonoma and say, "Hey, I ate in 5 amazing restaurants when I was there. You have to go check this out." Not one great restaurant and then everything else was blah, blah, blah. So, that helps. Having more great restaurants in Glen Ellen and Kenwood is also great. There's not a whole lot of restaurants here. I mean, this is, we'd welcome, more, honestly. And I think it just brings a more kind of collaborative buzz and draw to the area. And so I think I'm a believer. I don't see it. There are obviously competition, but I think it's a healthy competition. And it also keeps you on your guard. New restaurant opens. It's like, all right, tighten it down. Let's make sure it's like we're kicking some ass right now because we can't let them steal our thunder. But I think it's fun, and I also know that there's enough business to go around. It's not I exceed and you fail kind of environment. So that's my stance.
A restaurant doesn't make it 13 years without their regulars, without their people, their tribe, as you want to call it. What do those guests, what do those regulars mean to you, especially now that you've been able to expand it and maybe expanding more in the future?
Yeah, I mean, we see regulars every day, but in particular on Wednesdays. I think since you opened, did you have neighborhood night?
No. So neighborhood night, we'll talk about that because this plays into your regular question. Neighborhood night is every Wednesday here. It's a 2-course prefix menu, $49. And we waive corkage. Corkage is a very, a lot of winemakers, a lot of people like to bring their wine to restaurants. And corkage is, if you don't know out there, it's what you pay to open a bottle in the restaurant, right? So you bring your bottle in, we charge a certain amount of money because it's an opportunity cost to the restaurant to not sell wine. And it's, there's glassware and breakage, and it's time servers off the floor, and it all plays into the factor when you're sitting down. And so there's a restaurant called Olive and Vine just down the road. This is where Songbird is now.
Mm.
And they had this neighborhood night, this awesome promotion where they would waive corkage one night and they would do a simple menu. And she was closing down, and I asked her if I could go into her restaurant for her last neighborhood night and just observe and just watch it. And this had to be 2014 maybe. And I went in there and it was awesome. It was like great community coming in, sharing. They did like a fried chicken dinner. It was more casual than what we do here. And with her blessing, I took neighborhood night the very next Wednesday. And she even gave us her email list. And we just,
Wow.
I mean, because she's done. She's closing up. So we tapped into that. We started a following. Some of them were like, it wasn't for us. It was a different brand, but most people got the memo. They could bring the wine in. We put some creative energy into a great menu, and a lot of those dishes make it onto the menu in some version or another. So it's a good creative catalyst,
testing ground,
and it keeps us sharp and on our toes. And that we've generated a lot of regulars we've met. Just I mean, I can't name how many, but a lot.
Say
Wednesday is a very, very
busy
night.
First turn of a Wednesday, so the first seating of a Wednesday, 90% of the tables are regulars that come every Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah.
And really, Wednesday is the worst day for a restaurant. That's a day where usually you're your slowest.
And we're full.
And Wednesday is like
smart.
Wednesday is like a Saturday.
I think the reason why I ask is, it's a more and more digital world, right? That's probably how you're watching this right now. And so there are a lot of things in our lives, for good reason, that are just drawing us further and further and further and further apart. And restaurants, what you're describing, the regulars, the neighborhood aspect, is a place where you're all, once again, finally, because we can be, we're in the room together. And you're running into people from all different walks of life, all different parts of the stratosphere, and it is a communal thing. And there's something, even if you don't talk to somebody, there's something just about being around different types of people and having a place, where you can gather and connect with new people. You bump into people, you see people you weren't thinking about, and it's not something based on an algorithm. And I think it's a really cool thing. So it seems like
I will say
the vibe.
There's a lot of examples of people that live back here on Sonoma Mountain where they're on several acres and they can't see your neighbor kind of thing, but they are neighbors and they've never met. And they'll meet at the counter here.
Yeah.
And they'll say, hey, where do you live? Oh, I live on Sonoma Mountain.
Oh, really?
I live on Sonoma. What's your address? Oh, I'm your neighbor. We haven't met you yet. And there they are having dinner at the counter. I think that's
everyone's sharing
awesome.
wine on Wednesdays. You'll get someone coming up from this table all the way to the back of the restaurant, pouring their wine, or they may have made the wine. They may have just bought it or been sitting in their cellar for 10 years, but a lot of sharing going around and people moving around, and it's a pretty cool atmosphere.
I think the last 10 years, understanding that type of stuff matters a lot. Carries, so you kind of just always took it for granted growing up, but now especially, I think we are seeing the value of it. So it's cool that you have that going here. 2 restaurants, a third on the way, and you mentioned in my research, you're also doing catering as well. So you can bring this to your event. We can bring this to the Glen Ellen Star vibe, can come to wherever you are if you're having an event. Tell me about Park Avenue Catering.
Yeah, Park Avenue Catering. My wife and I got married up here in 2007.
Got that right?
September 8th, 2007. 97.
Remember that, buddy.
And our caterer was Park Avenue Catering. So that's when we first met. And I always knew I'd end up here in some way. And when we started, we used to cater out of the restaurant, and it became a burden. We would do about 40 events a year out of the restaurant. And I'd have a truck and bring everything back here and store everything here. And we just outgrew it. And so we took on, or I partnered with Park Avenue Catering to start for about 5 years. And
so business that was already existed. They did your wedding.
Yeah. So Park Avenue is 30 years old now, founded by my partner, he's now our CEO. I already bought him out, but Bruce Reiseman. So he starts Park Avenue Catering in 30 years ago. I'm not doing math right now, but maybe the 90s early. And he was the logistics and the infrastructure for all the catering. And so we would sell the events to the restaurant, their sales team would handle it. And we grew, quite a business. And in 2020, our favorite year, COVID, we ended up buying the controlling interest in Park Avenue. And my 2 partners there, Josue and Diane, so the 3 of us now own Park Avenue. And a lot of the inspiration from the restaurants we put into that, into the catering model. Mm-hmm. And a lot of things have to change because of logistics and volume and where we do it. But it's very unique to have a catering company that has its finger on the pulse and can change so quickly. A lot of times it's just the same format and the same portfolio and the same forever.
Chicken, marsala, steam, veggies,
right,
sliced bread.
Yeah. And we'll do that too. But really, what we're focused on is what's current and what's modern, and there's a lot of customization. And it's a big team. We have about 300 employees over there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are seasonal, but a lot of them we actually have our holiday party tonight, so we get to celebrate them tonight.
That's
awesome.
But
there's a lot that goes into an event and to produce it at volume. And we have to shout out to Park Avenue because they're an incredible, team, and they execute, and that's a big part of our business. And they all fold into each other to the restaurants. We do a lot of events on-site, off-site, and so I think it's a wonderful place to be, positioned to be able to say yes to pretty much anything on-site or off-site.
Spencer, we've touched on the third restaurant a couple times. Can you tell me anything about it? Do we have a name? I know you're not going to tell me a location. Do we have a menu? Do we have a theme? What can you say?
Yeah, I think we're looking to find a space that can accommodate, regular dining guests, but also maybe offer some event potential, in a space that's needing another restaurant, filling that hole that we talked about earlier. And it will be local. We're, using the same staff a lot of the times or transferring people over. So certainly local still.
I mean, you can tell them that it's in the city of Sonoma.
In the city of Sonoma, yeah. Downtown Sonoma.
Yeah, city of Sonoma. We've been knocking on Sonoma's door for a long time. There's a lot of challenges getting into that city, and some are permitting, some are compliant, and some are landlords.
Plumbing.
A lot of old buildings.
A lot of old buildings.
So that's where we are. We're right on the Sonoma Square. We're just off the square on Broadway.
Yeah. So, a lot of those buildings are not, when you take ownership and you have a new operator, you're subject to current code. And see, this is if you were just a chef and you moved to Sonoma, you want to open a restaurant, and you thought you were just going to open a restaurant, you're not going to open a restaurant. It's just not going to happen. So there are a lot of things that you have to understand in that process, and there's a big barrier in Sonoma, and there's a lot of buildings that are old, they're not up to code, there's millions of dollars of work, to get it to a place where you can actually start designing it. And so it's hard, which is why our second restaurant is in Kenwood, and we're happy to be there.
Right.
But our first, so hopefully this will work out. We're not, we can't really release any details because we're at the very beginning stages, but we are raising money for a third restaurant. So if anybody out there is, wants to talk, we're happy to talk to you. And it's an exciting concept. I think it's sorely needed. And it's a big step up. It's, there's 78 seats here, 106 in Stella, and this is a 200-seat restaurant.
Wow.
In Sonoma.
Yeah.
And it's an exciting, it would be an exciting next step. But we're at the very beginning stages. So we're just starting to talk about it because we're once you say it out loud and you tell people, especially in this format, now it has to happen.
Right. You're committed.
Yeah. No turning back now.
I think it's funny you say that about Sonoma because I feel like there are so many people who come and visit here or they cruise through and they just have that Sonoma moment where they get a little idea, and I was successful over in this part of the world. I'm just going to come. These people don't know anything. I'm just going to come cruise in here and do this. And it's seen this before. There's a lot of hidden pitfalls, I think.
Yeah, but
for good reason.
I don't want to cloud that. So it is a manageable process if you understand it. And the fact that we just went through it, and it's too much to even say out loud. It's more you have to be reactive, and you just have to know what the right question. It's like ChatGPT. You have to know how to prompt the question to the county, right? You have to know what and when to ask the question, and you need to understand the order of things,
right?
You can't get ahead of it. So it's a convoluted, crazy, complicated process that we just happen to be right off the heels,
and it's managing expectations. A lot of restaurateurs will say, hey, I want to open up a restaurant. Let's do it in 6 months. It's never going to happen in Sonoma County. I don't think.
I mean, unless you turnkey and buy it.
Right.
If you want to establish a brand, I mean, the harder way is to establish your identity and establish the brand.
Right.
You have to do that. If you want to really, I mean, there are examples where people don't do that, and that's fine. But for what we're doing, that's part of the process, and that takes time. For sure.
If you're one of our viewers, Sonoma Wealth client, you can eat here. You can have dinner here. You can have memories here. You can come and check it out if you've not been before. I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, it's the Glen Ellen Star on Arnold Drive in Glen Ellen, glenellenstar.com. Stella is in Kenwood. You can learn about them at stellakenwood.com. If you're watching because you know these guys, if you're a fan of the Star and Stella, my name is Dano Weir. I'm from Sonoma Wealth Advisors. We're a fiduciary financial advisor. We help individuals and families navigate the complexities of personal finance. And you can learn about us at sonomawealth.com. Wherever you found this show, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, subscribe. If you've enjoyed today's episode, your way to say thank you is to subscribe and interact with the episode. And it really does help the show. So thank you so much. Ari Weiswasser.
Nailed it. It's good. It's great.
Thanks for watching and listening to It's All Money. We hope today's episode shared information to increase your financial confidence. Now is the time in the show for the voiceover with a bunch of words at the end. Listen close, though. You might find out something you didn't know. It's All Money is powered by Sonoma Wealth Advisors. Sonoma Wealth Advisors helps individuals and families in Northern California and across the country with building, managing, and sustaining wealth. Sonoma Wealth is a comprehensive, holistic finance solution, offering financial planning, asset management, tax planning, 401k solutions, and appropriate insurance. Take our free wealth analysis now at sonomawealth.com. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to It's All Money on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. It's All Money features human hosts, musicians, editors, video crew, and voiceover talent. Video production by Fours Media in Rohnert Park, California. Online at foursmedia.com. Music by Neon Beach, Sparkle Rising on Soundstripe. Voiceover by me, Dano. Thank you for listening to the very end. We appreciate diligent viewers and listeners. Fermata Advisors, LLC is registered as an investment advisor with the SEC and only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. This content was produced by Fermata Advisors, LLC, DBA Sonoma Wealth Advisors, DBA Fermata 401k, DBA Fermata Tax. The opinions expressed by Fermata Advisors, LLC on this show are their own. Information presented on this program is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. Discussions and answers to questions do not involve the rendering of personalized investment advice, but are limited to the dissemination of general information. A professional advisor should be consulted before implementing any of the options presented. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Viewers and listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.